For much of the last century, the American West was slowly emptying. Ranches that once echoed with work and livestock fell quiet, windmills stopped turning, fence lines sagged. What remained was silent sand land waiting for someone to care again. The decline wasn't sudden. It came through economics, policy shifts, drought, and a cultural message repeated for generations. Leave if you want a future. Young people were encouraged to trade dirt roads for degrees, livestock for laptops, and uncertainty for comfort, and many did. But something else happened along the way. As cities expanded, life grew louder but less grounded. Work became digital, results became abstract, success became harder to feel, and a quiet hunger for meaning began to grow. The land didn't forget. Across the American West, abandoned and underused ranches remained still capable, still alive, still waiting. What looked like decline was actually pause. And now that pause is ending? This story begins not with nostalgia, but with return, not to the past but to responsibility. The West isn't calling back those who left, it's calling those who are ready. Most of the new ranchers returning today did not grow up on horseback. They didn't inherit land. They didn't learn fencing before algebra. They were raised in suburbs, cities, and small towns far from open range. Their connection to ranching often began with curiosity, sometimes through books, sometimes through travel, sometimes through dissatisfaction with modern life. What they shared wasn't background. It was disconnection. Many spent years in careers that paid well but felt hollow. Their days were filled with screens, meetings, and metrics that never touched anything real. They worked hard, but couldn't point to the result. Ranching offered the opposite. It promised no shortcuts, but full accountability. Every decision mattered. Every mistake showed. Every success was earned. That clarity was magnetic. These newcomers didn't arrive chasing romance. They arrived chasing reality. They wanted to build something that required their hands, their judgment, and their presence. For them, ranching wasn't escape. It was engagement. The land welcomes no one gently. New ranchers quickly discover that motivation doesn't replace experience. Fence posts don't set themselves. Cattle don't wait. Weather ignores plans. And mistakes are expensive. There is no learning curve that pauses consequences. Many face their first winter unprepared. Others underestimate water systems, grazing pressure, or animal behavior. Some lose livestock. Some lose savings. Some lose confidence. This is where most people quit. But those who stay begin to change. They stop asking how fast things can be done and start asking how well. They learn to listen to older ranchers. They study soil, grass, and weather patterns. They begin to understand that ranching isn't control, it's cooperation. That land doesn't reward arrogance. It rewards humility. Over time, something shifts. The land begins to speak not in words, but in patterns. Grass tells you when it's stressed. Cattle show discomfort before illness. Water systems reveal weaknesses long before failure. The new generation learns to slow down, to observe, to think seasons ahead instead of days. They stop imposing systems and start building relationships with the land. This is where transformation happens, not just to the ranch but to the person. Confidence replaces anxiety. Judgment sharpens. Decisions gain weight. Ranching reshapes identity because it demands presence. You cannot fake responsibility when living things depend on you. By this point, many could walk away, but they don't, because ranching gives something rare: honest feedback. The land responds truthfully. Animals respond honestly. Effort connects directly to outcome. For a generation overwhelmed by noise and abstraction, this clarity becomes addictive. They stay because the work matters, because progress is visible, because the land pushes back and teaches. This is where the Great Western Migration truly begins, not with arrival, but with commitment. For new ranchers, the first barrier isn't skill. It's access. Land across the American West has grown expensive, often priced beyond agricultural value. Many parcels are purchased for recreation or investment, leaving working ranchers competing with forces far removed from livestock and stewardship. Most newcomers start small: leases, partnerships, remote properties with limited infrastructure. Some inherit debt before they ever turn a profit. This financial pressure reshapes expectations. Ranching is no longer romantic. It becomes strategic. Every improvement must justify itself. Every fence, water line, and animal purchase is calculated. What emerges is a generation of ranchers who think long-term because they have no choice. They plan for decades, not seasons. They focus on sustainability not as a trend but as survival. The cost of entry is high, but so is the commitment. No one learns ranching alone. The new generation depends heavily on mentorship, often from ranchers twice their age. These relationships aren't formal. They're earned. Advice comes slowly. Trust comes slower. Veteran ranchers watch closely. They notice who listens, who shows up early, who admits mistakes. Over time, doors open. Shared knowledge about grazing rotations, cattle temperament, weather patterns, and survival tricks never written down. This exchange bridges generations. Experience meets energy. Tradition meets adaptation. It's not just about technique, it's about values: respect for land, respect for livestock, respect for neighbors. This quiet transfer of knowledge may be the most important revival happening in the West. This generation brings tools their predecessors never had: GPS mapping, remote water monitoring, eye-driven cattle tracking, drone surveying fence lines, and pasture health. Technology doesn't replace ranching, it sharpens it. New ranchers use data to reduce waste, catch problems early, and stretch limited resources. They blend digital tools with time-tested methods, creating systems that are resilient rather than fragile. The result isn't a high-tech ranch. It's a smarter one. Tradition survives not by resisting change but by guiding it. The result isn't a high-tech ranch. It's a smarter one. Tradition survives not by resisting change but by guiding it. Many of the ranches these new arrivals step onto are already tired long before the first gate is open. Fence lines lean and disappear into the grass. Corrals sit half collapsed. Water systems that once sustained herds are dry or broken. The land shows the marks of years. Without care, restoration does not begin with ambition. It begins with patience. Water is addressed first because nothing survives without it. Then come the fences, not to control the land but to give it time to breathe again. Grazing is slowed, pressure is reduced, pastures are allowed to rest. Progress is not immediate. Some seasons show little change, others feel like setbacks. But slowly the land responds. Grass grows thicker, soil darkens. Wildlife returns quietly at first, then with confidence. Cattle begin to move differently across healthier ground. This work rarely draws attention. There are no shortcuts, no applause, just long days and small signs that the land remembers how to heal when given the chance. What was left behind is not restored all at once. It is rebuilt piece by people willing to invest time before reward and effort before recognition. Every rancher remembers the first real loss, the one that cannot be blamed on bad luck alone. An animal that did not make it, a decision that came too late, a system that failed when it mattered most. Ranching offers no buffer between action and consequence. Mistakes are visible. They stay with you, and they change how you think. New ranchers learn quickly that confidence without humility leads to failure, and that preparation never feels excessive once responsibility sets in. Loss becomes a teacher not because it is harsh, but because it is honest. It forces attention. It sharpens judgment. It builds resilience slowly and deeply. Those who remain do not become fearless. They become careful. They listen more. They plan further ahead. They accept that perfection does not exist here, only commitment does. Ranching does not reward those who avoid failure. It rewards those who learn from it and continue forward with respect for the land and the lives under their care. At some point, the work stops feeling temporary. The ranch is no longer a project or an experiment. It becomes identity. The land shapes daily decisions and slowly reshapes the person making them. New ranchers begin to speak differently. Time is measured in seasons instead of weeks. Success defined by health rather than speed. Pride comes not from visibility but from quiet progress. Responsibility sharpens awareness. Every choice carries weight because living things depend on it. This pressure does not weaken people. It strengthens them. It creates clarity. It removes distraction. Ranching does not ask who you were before. It only asks who you are willing to become. Ranching may look solitary from the outside, but survival here is collective. Neighbors watch each other's land. They share equipment. They show up without being asked. Newcomers slowly become part of this network. Trust is earned through consistency, through showing up in bad weather, through helping without expectation. This quiet cooperation rebuilds rural communities that once seemed lost, not through growth but through reliability. Not through expansion, but through commitment. The West survives because people still look out for one another. Many of these new ranchers never received knowledge as children. Now they are becoming the ones who pass it on. They teach partners. They teach neighbors. They teach their children. Skills once at risk of disappearing are practiced daily again. This is how traditions survive. Not through preservation, but through use. Ranching knowledge lives only when applied. The land remembers those who care for it, and so do the people who follow. Success here is not measured by scale. It is measured by stability, by healthy grass, by calm cattle, by systems that endure drought and stress. Many who return to ranching give up higher incomes for deeper satisfaction. They trade convenience for purpose. They stay because the work feels real, and the results are honest. Because at the end of the day, they can see what they've built. The Great Western Migration is not loud. It does not announce itself. It happens quietly through choice after choice made by people willing to accept responsibility. Ranch by ranch, the land is cared for again. Knowledge is relearned. Communities stabilize. Traditions evolve without disappearing. The American West is not fading. It is being rebuilt by those who chose meaning over ease and stewardship over comfort. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe the land and the people who care for it deserve a future, then subscribe to Ranch Revival America. We document the real work behind restoring ranches, preserving traditions, and rebuilding the West, one pasture at a time.